Welcome back to Left Coast Crime in Denver, Colorado, one of the best writers' conferences out there. If you have a chance to check out Left Coast Crime on the web, learn about where it's going to be next year. It's going to be in San Francisco. It rotates locations. And one thing that is common is that there are a lot of people who have signed up for Outliers Writing University at outlierswritinguniversity.com. We'll talk a little bit about that today with the legendary D.P.Lyle, MD. Are you still an MD if you've retired?
No, but I'm still legendary.
He's also a best-selling author, award-winning storyteller, medical consultant for some of the biggest crime and TV shows, 25 books out, a million amazing characters, and also a principal in Outliers Writing University. Welcome, Ward.
Hey, good to be here.
I guess since it's your show, you can demand to be a guest, huh?
Yes, exactly. You saw the gun.
Take us to where the idea for Outliers Writing University came from.
Kathy held a gun to my head. Kathy Athlete. We met actually in 1996 at the old Maui Writers Conference, and they had a thing called the Maui Writers Retreat, which was 4 days of intensive instruction, 10 people in a class with teachers, John Saul and Terry Brooks and people like that. And so we both did the first couple of years of that, and we thought this is the way to learn to write. And I'm going to tell you, those 2 weeks and the 2 years apart helped me so much, besides reading all the books and then writing. But it showed me a lot about how you actually become a writer. And this is a long time ago, 30 years ago now, almost. I mean, good Lord. And so that helped. So we always liked that idea. And then when International Thrill Writers got formed, and we were both founding members of that, and when we first had the first conference, I talked to Gail Lenz and I said, why don't we have a school? And she said, what do you mean? I said, why don't we teach people the craft of thriller writing? And she said, well, that's a great idea. She said, why don't you do it? I said, well, that wasn't what I was saying.
You just wanted to get the idea.
She said, look, we'll give you 8 slots in the curriculum there, and you do it. So what did I do? I called Kathy. And so we got together and we put together that thing, and then that became Craft Fest, which grew into a day-and-a-half thing at International Thrill Writers for years, and I ran that for 15 years. And so then the pandemic came along and things kind of changed and all that. So a couple of years ago, we sat down again and started talking because we'd kicked this around and we both were interested in something, but now the online world exploded. And so we actually got together over wine and whiskey in my backyard for 3 days and started kicking it around, and we gave it some thought and said, okay, let's pull the trigger on this.
What makes it unique?
It's online, so it's done through Zoom. All of our teachers are working, and I think that's an important word, best-selling authors who are gifted teachers. And these are people that we have known and come to know well over the last 2 decades through ITW and other conferences and other organizations, MWA and all that. And we know the quality of their teaching and the quality of their writing. So we could put these people together. And, we're talking, people like Hank Felipe Ryan and Heather Graham and Jeffrey Deaver and Stephen James. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And so we reached out to these people, and every one of them said, oh, absolutely, it's a great idea.
One of the biggest, I think, downsides for me of a conference is that I come away from a conference all fired up to write, and then life intrudes.
Exactly.
How is Outliers Writing University?
Yeah. And I was the same way, because back when I was a fledgling writer and you'd go to a conference, I'm the gung-ho, and 2 weeks later, you're still looking at that cursor blinking at you and saying, I don't know what to say next, and your inspiration starts waning. And so this is online, and our core curriculum, we call it the online ongoing university, because it's 2 classes a month every month, and it goes on forever. So if someone subscribes for an annual fee, they get 2 classes on Zoom at home for 12 months. So it's 24 classes. And each class they have access to for 10 days after the class, where they can go there and watch the presentation again. They're interactive because they're done live. And so the people who make it to the live class, They can ask their questions either in the chat or, wave their hands and, the teacher will talk back and forth to them. So it's an interactive class. But what it does is it keeps your juices flowing all year round because every 2 weeks you're learning something new about the craft of writing. And I think it's good for people in any genre at any level to be able to spin a yarn.
Even if you don't, need to learn some of this stuff, it's got to be a lot like cardiovascular exercise, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Refreshing.
Yeah. I mean, we get the teachers and we know what they're going to talk about, and I'm doing one a couple of days on setting, but, Meg Gardner, did one on action and suspense and how to create. Yeah. So we have to sit there and we moderate the thing. So we turn it off. So I'm sitting there listening to this stuff all the time. And I never come away from any of those classes that I didn't learn 2 or 3 little nuggets that I said, I can do that better. I can do that better, so yeah, it's like everything else. It's an ongoing learning process. And any writer will tell you that the learning process is never, ever over with.
Well, and when you add up the costs, for me coming from Florida out here to Denver, hotel, food, drinks, and all of that stuff, Outliers Writing University is one heck of a financial deal.
Absolutely. And, you can do it in your pajamas, and that's it. You can sit at home and look at your computer and relax and have a glass of wine if you want while you're listening to these things. And then again, you can make notes, or most of the classes have either PowerPoint presentations or handouts or both that we send to the students. And it's online, so they can go back a couple of days later after they kind of thought about it a little bit and kind of look back at their work and say, well, I want to hear that again. They go back and listen to it again. And we even have the ability for people to buy those classes later. And if you buy them later as a single class, anybody who's even not in the school, you can buy them, and you have 2 weeks of being able to listen to that lecture over and over again. So.
And if you're an Outliers Writing University subscriber, you're making new friends.
Oh, too. Yeah, it's a community.
It's interesting to me to see how many people that I have not met yet that have become friends as a result of my experience.
Absolutely. And we have a great success story. We have also a thing called boot camp where we have a maximum of 5 students, and we will work with them in a small group like that and actually work on the first 60 pages, 10 pages each class. It's 6 classes over 12 weeks. And we edit the thing, talk to them, go talk about story, talk about structure, talk about whatever they need to know about. We work on their stuff, and we send the edited stuff back to them, and everybody in the class gets to see what everybody's doing. So everybody's learning from everybody. Well, we had a student that submitted something, and after I read the first chapter, I said, oh my God, this is unbelievable. So I waited in the second chapter and the third chapter, and it's unbelievable. So after the thing, the 12 weeks was over with, I said, D, my name's D. Armstrong. You're going to see her. I said, D, send me the manuscript. I want to read the whole thing. And I did. I was blown away. I sent it to Kathy. She was blown away. So we have a publishing wing, Old Suspense Publishing from the Suspense magazine. It's now Outlier Suspense Publishing, and we're publishing her book. It's going to come out in November. And she took the boot camp. She also takes our year-long. She takes all the intensive classes we put together. D is always there. Why? Because she is trying to build a career. And that's really what we're trying to help.
Well, and the thing that fascinates me, and I think is so cool, is how you exist in the same ecosystem as these conferences, but you don't compete. You've been welcomed here by the locals. Absolutely.
I mean, this room, the Left Coast Crime people graciously gave us the studio that we're in right now to use. No, I think they complement each other like we talked about. Conferences are great. You go to a conference, you get to hang out with your friends. You get to go to panels and see all these great writers talk about stuff and go back and forth. And the main thing is you get to sit in the bar and chit chat with people and people in the same boat trying to get that next book done, trying to get that next sentence written, for Christ's sake.
It's a family reunion.
It's a family reunion all the time. And earlier you had Craig Pottersbuck on here, and he was talking about how he found this community was so different from the Hollywood community because everybody's welcome. Well, that's the writing community, and that's what conferences are all about. They're social gathering as much as anything else, and they inspire you. But now, let's get back to business. Let's continue our learning. Let's continue our progression. Let's continue to develop our techniques and become better storytellers. And that is a lifelong process.
And for people that are involved in Left Coast Crime, you have a special offer going on.
We do. People who are registered for this year, we're at a $200 off on our annual subscription fee. It's normally $900 a year for the whole shebang. It's $700 for people who have registered here at Left Coast Crime. And we appreciate them, welcoming us, and we appreciate them passing that information on to their people. And we want to help, like I said, bring along the next generation of writers.
D.P.Lyle, the man, the legend, one of the co-founders of Outliers Writing University. Full confession, I've signed on with these guys, and it's been one of the best decisions that I've made in my short and unspectacular writing career.
I don't know about that, but your broadcasting career is unbelievable.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
Exactly.
Doug, thanks for joining us.
Hey, always a pleasure, man.